So recently, I shared with you the 5 things that I love about a Kamado-style grill. Not everything's perfect. In this video, we're going to talk about the 5 things that I hate about a Kamado-style grill. What's up, barbecue fans? Welcome back to Patio. My name's Jake. You're watching Rum and Cook. Today on the channel, we're talking about the 5 things that I hate about a Kamado-style grill. Now listen, my mom always told me, hate is a strong word. So we're using that for title, but these are more things that I dislike. I mean, if I had to pick up some things that I hated about this thing, there'd be absolutely 0. And for transparency's sake, there's 1 or 2 that bother me about a Kamado-style grill. The other ones, I had to stretch it just to make it 5. I mean, there's not a lot that I dislike about a Kamado-style grill. I think that they win in a lot of areas. And as I said in the other video, if I could only have one smoker or grill on my patio, it would be a Kamado-style grill. Let's get into it. Number 1, lighting your charcoal. It takes a little bit of time. Now, over the last 6 years, I've experimented with several different ways of lighting your lump. And here's really my 2 favorites. We either get some Kamado Joe wax starter cubes. You can use other starter cubes. I just like these, they work well. And they look like this. And essentially you light up a corner, bury them in charcoal, and away you go. There's a couple other options out there. You can get a little metal ball that you put these inside, or you put some little straw starters in there. Either way, they all kind of work the same. And essentially what happens is you light them up and you wait 10-15 minutes until your lump is burning, and then you move on to the next step. I also tried a Loop Lighter X, did a video review on that one, and that is a rechargeable air-powered heat gun, for lack of a better word. And that was better, although I had some issues with that, so we moved on from that. And then, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, I finally broke down and I brought myself a grill gun. These are from Grill Blazer, and I mean, super simple. Can't see it here, but you can hear I've got a big flame out to here. Have a discount code for those below. However, you still have to light that charcoal up, which takes a little bit of time, which leads us nicely into number 2. Number 2, you have to wait a little bit of time to get these guys heat soaked, right? That's why they shine. We light a fire in there, we get some good flavor from that lump charcoal and our smoking woods if we're using some smoking woods. However, now we've got to let this guy get nice and heat soaked so that the properties of this work effectively. Right, so what we're doing is we're trying to get our lid and our body to absorb some of the heat energy and fire that heat energy into our food, 360 degrees. We cook quicker, we cook a juicier product, but it takes time, right? You've got to wait another 15-20 minutes for this to get heat soaked enough to really take advantage of that. Now, if you're just going to fire this up for some burgers or some wings or something like that, and you don't really care about that, it's fine. Light it up, use it just like a normal charcoal grill, and you can do, you know, in a hot zone and a cold zone, however you want, but you can let it go once that charcoal's up to temp, and you know, then you can use it like a grill. That's no problem. But if you really want to do like a longer cook, like some smoked meat, or you want to do a roast, and even if you're not smoking it, you know, to get the full effect of this, it takes a little bit of time for this to get heat soaked properly and you to get the best results. Number 3, if you've been around this channel for any time at all, you've probably heard me say these make amazing pizzas and calzones, which they do. However, once you get this guy heat soaked for the other cooks that you're doing, if you want to take this up past 400-500 degrees, you've really got to step it up a little bit, right? You don't just go 300 degrees to 900 degrees and go cook on it. The reason for that, and this is more specific to a Kamado, is that this grout in here, it's a NASA grade grout, and it has a very, very special purpose. This is the only Kamado on the market that I'm aware of that actually expands as it heats up. It's designed to expand. So what happens here is your grout needs to get warmed up to get pliable and expand a little bit. So you want to step it up you know, take it up to 500 degrees, wait a couple minutes, take it up to 600 degrees, wait a couple minutes, and just do a couple steps. It's not a big deal, right? I'm nitpicking at the things just for this video, but it's something you should be aware of. If you do not take those steps, no big deal. These all come with a tube of grout, and you literally take a little bit on your finger and you wipe it in wherever it cracked while it's warm. Next morning you come out, you take a sponge with some water on it, wipe it down, and it's done. And you don't have to be an expert at tiling or anything like that. You can see on this guy, I've done it several times and you can't tell any repairs were made. It doesn't take any time at all. It's just something to be aware of. On a you know, Kamado Joe or something like that, you don't necessarily have to, you can go up quicker than on something like this. Again, it's just a nitpicky thing that I'm bringing to your attention. Number 4, these things take a little bit to cool down. I like to cover my grills and smokers before I go to bed for the night, right? I just like to take care of them. They're expensive, and I do cover them every chance I get. It's very, very rare that one of my smokers does not get covered before I go to bed. And when it comes down to a Kamado-style grill, right, they hold all this heat energy in them, and they hold it for a very long time. So, you know, depending on what temperature that you're cooking at, it's gonna take a little bit of time for this to come down. Now, a great rule of thumb for something like the Kamado is close all your vents, right? No air, no fire. And what happens is once you start to see this temperature come down by about 50 degrees, you know your fire's out. So then you can put down your tables. You can, usually what I'll do is I'll pop it up. Like you can see, I've only got it down on, there's 2 latches here. There's closed. There's one like that where it's got a little bit of play in it. I'll put it in that mode. I might crack my vent a little bit, and then I put my cover on it, and away you go. But that is usually gonna take an hour or so. And if you're cooking at a super high temperature, I probably wouldn't cover it until it came down a little bit. Not a big deal. Again, you just have to take a little bit of extra time to let it cool down. So this is not something that, you know, if you've got a short window to cook on, you can't just really come out and fire it up, cook real quick, shut it down and cover it up and be done with it. Not a big deal, just something to be aware of. Number 5, you gotta take your time in the winter. Now, for me personally, I don't really like to cook inside. I will, but if I can cook outside all year round, I'm doing it. You know, as long as it's not raining or some blizzard, although I've cooked in some blizzards, I like to cook outside. And a Kamado-style grill, you have to be a little bit more careful in the winter months when you bring it up to temperature, especially if it's cold. Now, where I'm at, it's, you know, it might get down to, you know, 20 Fahrenheit, maybe 18 Fahrenheit. Most of the times it's, you know, around 32 to 40. It doesn't get super cold. We don't get a lot of snow. And for my Canadian friends or European friends, Celsius, you know, we might get down to -10 Celsius, but not too cooler than that, although we definitely have a couple weeks where we will. But when you're in the cold like that, you need to bring this up to temperature a little slower. You light your fire, you start with closed vents, and you slowly bring it up. Now, more so on the Kamado, right? Again, we want our grout to warm up a little bit before we start hitting those higher temperatures. So this requires a little bit of a slower start time than, say, a Kamado Joe. Interestingly enough, James over at Smokin' Dad Barbecue did a video where he tried to get a Kamado Joe to crack. It was actually kind of hilarious. He tried, you know, condensed air, and eventually, after trying a whole bunch of different things, you got to watch the video. I'll put a link down below. He ended up like Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and dropped it off a chair because he couldn't get it to crack. Is that exactly how it would be in the winter? I'm not quite sure, because the whole thing would be frozen, and except for just a spot on it. But, you know, how do you duplicate that in real life? So I think that there's probably a little bit more of a chance of something like that cracking, especially if you're in you know, Canada or, you know, further north where it starts to get even colder in the winter. But, you know, it's just something in general. You see pictures of them cracking online. It's just not worth taking a chance on. So what you do is you light a small fire and you slowly ramp it up, and then you go use like normal. Again, I gotta tell you, I struggle to pick 5, but you know, if you're gonna do a series where you have 5 things you love and 5 things you hate, I had to come up with 5 things, so I did. If you haven't seen the 5 things I love, check it out up here. If you're not subscribed yet, do so below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't got one of my shirts yet, check them out below. Thanks as always for watching. I appreciate the support. I'll see you soon.